edges. What can we learn from the old masters? Let's get to it. Oops. So there's a number of concepts I want to talk about today. First off, varying the edge of the figure within the space. That is the edge condition. So varying an edge can mean keeping it sharp and hard-edged, softening the edge. With a hard edge, the part of the painting that has the hard edge up against the background will come forward more. With a soft edge, the area that is soft will recede into the painting, thinking about the painting as a picture plane that has depth. With this John Singer Sargent, he purposefully made the profile within the painting almost insanely sharp. The nose versus the forehead, usually you vary the edge in terms of the speed of the slope of the object as it's moving into the space that it's going into. And there would be a variation between the nose and the forehead. And I'll show you guys that in some other pieces. Again, hard edges bring the subject closer. Soft edges recede into the depth of the painting. Within this Sargent, we can see where he varies his edge condition. So an edge condition can be the edge of a contour meeting a background. It can also be the contour of a form hitting another form. And so within here on the side of her face, we can see how the edge condition along the inside of her nose and orbital cavity changes. Right? It's a hard edge here, which means it's a little bit of a thinner transition and a faster transition versus the softness of this edge, which is a slower slope into that distance. So because this is a thinner, sharper edge, it tucks in to that edge a little bit faster. Also within this painting, we see his use of lost edges as well. So this edge right here is a lost edge into the distance to add depth, where we have a harder edge up against the background here to make this part of her face, the tilt of her head, come forward more. So this side, again, that harder edge is rotating her head and tilting her head closer to the viewer in the nod, whereas he's losing the edge on this side. And there doesn't have to be a definite edge at all, and you still understand that idea of how there's a person in front of us. Not everything within the painting has to be spelled out. To really illustrate this idea, we see this Velázquez painting where his edges are very definite. Within, again, with the nose, where that edge is a lot harder, where we, again, lose this edge because of this smoothness right through here. And this is how we think about form when we're going across the form, is that this edge is more like this, whereas this drop-off is a lot quicker. That's another lesson that we can learn about understanding the topography of the face by how we handle edges. Another good thing to check out within this painting is look how soft and subtle this edge is, because this is the speed of this slope is a lot more gradual as it goes around versus other areas where, again, with this nose, it just becomes more abrupt and darker. We see this again also with our best friend Van Dyke, and you'll notice it pretty easily where the edge condition across here, which if we were to take a photograph of him, the way photography works is that photography uses depth of field within a lens and the distance from the end of the lens to the figure from the nose. And so things that are sometimes either closer to the lens will be more in focus versus things that are farther away from the lens, which will be out of focus, which is called depth of field. We don't have that as humans. We don't think of depth of field when we're painting. We think of how our binocular vision understands how there's a roundness to the figure, where there's atmosphere around the figure. And so having the edge condition, the contour of where our figure meets the background right here, and how this mass is interacting with the background is very important for understanding depth within a painting. And what I mean by that is, I'll take away our line here for our depth, and we notice that even though this is all the contour along the side of his face, if you can see my little mouse movement right here, you notice that this edge is softer. This edge is harder. this edge gets a little bit harder, and then this edge gets softer. And the reason that he chose to do that in these paintings, again, just like the Velázquez forehead we were talking about, this forehead, the speed of the slope is much more gradual than this speed of the slope. This kind of comes in and over, right? And so it's a little bit of a thinner space that kind of has a faster angle as it moves into the background. Same here. But then this is a little bit more gradual. And so this edge is softer, this edge is harder, and this edge is softer. And so that's what edge condition really is. It's this idea that the edge is shifting based on what is creating the contour, right? What is the mass that's creating the contour? This is not a one-dimensional posterized, every edge is the same, but once we start thinking about dimensions and topography of the face, then our edges, such as the edge of here of the nose, the wing of the nostril as it goes into the shadow, versus this edge and topography of the bridge of the nose. Totally different. And we see how this is a thinner, you can imagine almost pinching the nose, or even just kind of sculpting the obtuse, slow slope of this edge into here, into here. And so that helps us, again, to understand the topography. And Van Dyck was a master of this, because we can even see how his strokes really kind of follow, and even the way the hairs of the mustache and the beard kind of follow that flow. In here we can see the broken color of the skin. I'm going to do a whole lesson on broken color. It's fascinating for me, where he didn't just fill in a whole area with skin tone. He developed where there's yellows and pinks and greens all interspersing based on the imprimatura, his original underpainting that he used, which is kind of cool. We can kind of see it over here, which is really fun, and also over here. So this is a painting of mine where I use a lot of these things that I've learned from looking at old masters. You can see in the forehead again, the slope is very subtle, soft edge. Here, harder edge. Same, wing of the nostril, subtlety within this part of the bridge of the nose. Through here is a little bit harder, a little bit softer. Thinking about that and the movement of the form, how things turn, is really important. And these edges really describes how our figures sit within the space of the painting. Thanks guys for watching this video on what edge condition is and how we can consider it for our paintings. If you like this content, please like and subscribe, and I promise not to swap a V and a Z ever again in a video, just like the last one. Awesome guys, take care, and I hope you guys all paint well. Cheers. Oops.